seemed to have demons of his own that he struggled to contain. And he was losing.
Fans of the Diablo series are already intimately familiar with the warrior class, later revealed to be the very hero that felled the Lord of Terror beneath the town of Tristram during the events of Diablo 1, and it's then we witness the character's subsequent fall in Diablo 2, first in the guise of the Dark Wanderer, and later tragically succumbing to the evil known as Diablo when transforming before our very eyes into the next incarnation of the Lord of Terror himself. However, an ongoing mystery was exactly how such a powerful and ardent defender of the light was actually corrupted, and why. To fully ask and answer this question, here is the full story of the tragic rise and fall of the warrior from Diablo 1. Events prior to Diablo 1. The warrior of Diablo 1 was originally of unknown origin, meant to give a mystique to the character or an everyman air that anybody could be him. And this was later changed in the infamous retcon in Diablo 3 by Chris Metzen. Thanks to this, we learned that the warrior, known as Prince Aiden, was part of what would become the ruling family of Khandurus, accompanying his father, King Leoric, mother, and brother Ulbricht, and their court from Keshistan to the Western Land. Their court was set up in an abandoned monastery at Tristram, and over time, Leoric gained the respect of the people, and Aiden himself was tutored by a local Deckard Cain. Over time, however, thanks to Diablo's influence reaching up from his soul stone, nestled below the old Herodric Cathedral, Leoric's mood became increasingly erratic. His rule brutal, and in the throes of such madness, he sent his army against the neighboring kingdom of Westmarch. Aiden was among the soldiers sent into battle. The war against Westmarch was a disaster. The armies of Khandurus being cut to shreds. Aiden survived and made his way back to Tristram, the town already suffering under whatever evil was plaguing it, and drawing numerous adventurers to the town because of that. Well, that and gold. And by the time Aiden arrived, things had gotten even worse. His father had been struck down by the knight Lochdanan, and Ulbricht was missing, and his kingdom was in shambles.
May death bring peace from your madness, Leoric.
Traitors! Even in death, the armies of Khandurus will still obey their king, even if you will not.
Thank goodness you returned. Much has changed since you lived here, my friend. All was peaceful until the Dark Riders came and destroyed our village. Many were cut down where they stood, and those who took up arms were slain or dragged away to become slaves, or worse. The church at the edge of town has been desecrated and is being used for dark rituals. The screams that echo in the night are inhuman, but some of our townsfolk may yet survive. Follow the path that lies between my tavern and the blacksmith's shop to find the church and save who you can. Perhaps I can tell you more if we speak again. Good luck.
Aiden vowed to rescue his brother and banish whatever power had gripped the kingdom, though Cain urged caution. He warned Aiden of the demons beneath the cathedral and of the undead, how he might have to face those he once knew. Cain also pointed out that there were others who could aid him, and as such, he was joined by a rogue named Morena and a Vigerai sorcerer known as Jazrid.
The sanctity of this place has been fouled.
Venturing into the cathedral, Aiden and his companions faced the horror and might of the burning hells, quickly dispatching a demon called the Butcher.
The spirits of the dead are now avenged,
who massacred a substantial portion of the townsfolk. It was then he soon encountered his own father, Leoric, now under the guise of the Skeleton King. Witnessing the reanimated visage of his father was a harrowing encounter for the young prince, made even more heartbreaking by the fact he was forced to strike him down.
Rest well, Leoric. I'll find your son.
Aiden bared the unenviable task of bringing the news of the king's re-death before returning into the labyrinth once more.
I don't care about that. Listen, no skeleton is gonna be my king. Leoric is king. King! So you hear me? Hail to the king!
It's then the heroes pressed on, making their way into the catacombs under the monastery, eventually discovering the Staff of Lazarus, which belonged to the bishop that had been Leoric's advisor. The same bishop had led Tristram's people into the labyrinth to be slaughtered before disappearing. Returning to Tristram, Aiden presented the staff to Deckard Cain, claiming that it was clear that Lazarus had deceived his people. Cain was not sure what to make of it, but realized that Lazarus himself must have kidnapped Albrecht, his brother. With this knowledge, Aiden and his companions made their way to the unholy altar.
Abandon your foolish quest. All that awaits you is the wrath of my master. You are too late to save the child. Now you will join him.
Lazarus was indeed powerful and had many demons at his side, but in the end, he was ultimately struck down. A youth had been sacrificed to whatever dark power Lazarus served, but thankfully, it wasn't Albrecht.
Your madness ends here, betrayer.
Returning to Cain again, the scholar told Aiden of what lurked beneath the labyrinth. Diablo, the Lord of Terror.
Your story is quite grim, my friend. Lazarus will surely burn in hell for his horrific deed. The boy that you describe is not our prince, but I believe that Albrecht may yet be in danger. The symbol of power that you speak of must be a portal in the very heart of the labyrinth. Know this, my friend. The evil that you move against is the Dark Lord of Terror. He is known to mortal men as Diablo. It was he who was imprisoned within the labyrinth many centuries ago, and I fear that he seeks to once again sow chaos in the realm of mankind. You must venture through the portal and destroy Diablo before it is too late.
And with this knowledge, Aiden and his companions ventured back into the labyrinth for one last battle. As Aiden would later put it, Diablo's realm was the threshold of hell itself. It was a realm fitted for Diablo, certainly, for not only was their struggle physical, but mental as well. And the demon forced Aiden to relive his worst nightmares, his greatest failures, and his fears that he would never live up to the expectations of his deceased father. But, driven by the belief that his brother could still be saved, Aiden pressed on. He and his companions wore the demon down until ultimately it was Aiden who struck the final blow, only for it to be revealed that Diablo had used Albrecht as his host. Deckard Cain would later speculate that Aiden, seeing his brother's lifeless body before him, would have shattered his mind. Whatever run through Aiden's head, there was one last loose end. Diablo's soul stone. Broken by Lazarus, it could not contain the demon indefinitely. Witnessing the horrors wrought upon his town and people, Aiden had but one gambit left. Believing that he could contain Diablo's essence, he plunged the soul stone into his own forehead. Blood filled his vision. The whispers of the damned echoed in his ears. Aiden could feel Diablo himself clawing his way up from the dark recesses of his soul. But he had done it. Diablo had been contained, at least for now.
The Soul Stone burns with hellfire as an eerie red glow blurs your vision. Fresh blood flows into your eyes, and you begin to hear the tormented whispers of the damned. You have done what you knew must be done. The essence of Diablo is contained, for now. You pray that you have become strong enough to contain the demon and keep him at bay. Although you have been fortified by your quest, you can still feel him clawing his way up from the dark recesses of your soul. Fighting to retain control, your thoughts turn toward the ancient mystic lands of the Far East. Perhaps there, beyond the desolate wastes of Aranok, you will find an answer. Or perhaps salvation.
Emerged victorious. It was said in the Book of Cain that Aiden emerged from the bowels of the cathedral coated in his own blood and all manner of demonic ichor. It was a victory to Tristram, but it was clear that Aiden was not the same person he once was. He increasingly shunned the company of others, spending the day in isolation and the nights wandering the streets, seemingly without direction or purpose. As Cain recalled,
As you know, some time ago Diablo was slain beneath Tristram, and when our hero emerged triumphant from the labyrinth beneath town, we held a grand celebration that lasted several days. Yet, as the weeks passed, our hero became increasingly aloof. He kept his distance from the rest of the townsfolk and seemed to lapse into a dark, brooding depression. I thought that perhaps his ordeal had been so disturbing that he simply could not put it out of his mind. The hero seemed more tormented every passing day. I remember he awoke many times, screaming in the night, always something about the East. One day he simply left, and shortly thereafter Tristram was attacked by legions of foul demons. Many were slain, and the demons left me to die in that cursed cage. I believe now that Tristram's hero was that dark wanderer who passed this way before the monastery fell. I fear even worse, my friend. I fear that Diablo has taken possession of the hero who sought to slay him. If true, Diablo will become more powerful than ever before. You must stop him, or all will be lost.
Many moons have passed since I left the town of Tristram behind me. Since then, I've tried to forget the terrors I beheld beneath the cold earth, and the twisted nightmares that have haunted my every waking moment. There's something dark within me now. I can feel it, driving me towards the east, assuring me that my salvation lies within the ruins of ancient kingdoms. Though I know the way, I know not what perils will arise to hinder my journey. And as I pass through the first gate, I know that the better part of my soul will remain behind. Forever.
The Wanderer. Yes, it was the Wanderer.
Aiden, or what was left of him, now had a new moniker, the Dark Wanderer, a vessel for Diablo and little else. Heading east, he sought passage to the port of Lutgo Lane. Passing through the Eastgate Monastery, the Wanderer encountered the Sisters of the Sightless Eye, many of whom had recently been corrupted by Andariel, now come over to the cause of the prime evils. The monastery desecrated, the Wanderer stopped at a tavern situated in the mountains that separated Aranok from Khandurus. Summoning demons and the forms of the undead to his side, the Wanderer set the tavern ablaze and everyone in it apart from one, Marius, who had fled the rogue monastery. For whatever reason, the Wanderer beckoned to Marius to follow, and he did.
Why did I follow him? I don't know. Why do things happen as they do in dreams? All I know is that when he beckoned, I had to follow him. And from that moment, we traveled together, east. Always into the east.
For many weeks, the pair travelled across Aranok. During the trip, the Wanderer regaled Marius of his past as a warrior, and that a burden had been placed on him. Eventually, they came within sight of Lutgo Lane, and the pair made camp, and Marius shared the Wanderer's dreams. Dreams that were more akin to memories, depicting the Herodric mage Talrasha being bound to contain the essence of Baal, the Lord of Destruction. As the Wanderer explained, it was Baal who he sought, and they set out at dawn, searching for the tomb of Talrasha. Finding the tomb, the Wanderer appeared to gain strength, or rather, as Marius observed, appeared to be losing what was left of his humanity, and his visage becoming ever more demonic. Either way, the Wanderer led the way into the tomb, undeterred by the gloom. Eventually, the pair reached the Binding Stone, where Talrasha, barely containing Baal, stood. The Wanderer moved forward to release the Lord of Destruction, but it was here that the Archangel Tyrael intervened. The Wanderer and the Angel did battle, but Marius, manipulated by Baal, released him.
Fool! You have just ensured the doom of this world. You cannot even begin to imagine what you've set in motion this day. Go to the Temple of Light in the eastern city of Karast. There you will find the gate to hell opened before you. You must find the courage to step through that gate, Marius. Take the stone you hold to the Hellforge, where it will be destroyed. Now run. Take the stone and run!
What choice did I have? I ran.
It was then Marius promptly fled with Baal's soulstone at the behest of Tyrael. But it mattered not. Baal was free, and Tyrael was imprisoned in his place. And with that, the Wanderer and Baal set sail to Kurast.
Talrasha, and a great evil who could only be the Lord of Hatred himself. Mephisto. I heard a voice then, like 1,000 needles in my heart.
The Wanderer then had a close shave at Kurast with a band of heroes that had been pursuing him, but managed to escape their grasp. Soon afterwards, the Wanderer and Baal arrived at Travancore, entering the Temple of Light. The Zakroom had already been partially corrupted by Mephisto's influence as his soulstone lay under the city, but Diablo used his powers of fear to cause the uncorrupted defenders to flee and or turn on each other. Regardless, Mephisto's soulstone was found, and the Lord of Hatred quickly took possession of his K-Hagen, Sankukur. After centuries of imprisonment, the Primevals were reunited.
My brothers, at long last we stand reunited. The Infernal Gate has been prepared, and the time of our final victory is at hand. Let the way to hell be opened. And the evil that was once vanquished shall rise anew. Wrapped in the guise of man shall he walk amongst the innocent, and terror shall consume they that dwell upon the earth.
Within a chamber, the Primes devised a final stratagem to retake the burning hells and claim vengeance on those who had turned on them by using their corrupted soul stones to corrupt the reality-bending world stone and thereby enslaving humanity to their will. The Infernal Gate was opened and Diablo took full control of the Wanderer's body, assuming his true form. The Wanderer had served the Lord of Terror well, and Aiden seemed to be lost forever.
Now, my young brother, the time has come to assume your true form. Arise, Diablo, Lord of Terror. Send forth your terror into hell.
However, the heroes that had pursued the Wanderer over the months had not given up and confronted Diablo himself. Cain would speculate that even then, some small part of Aiden's old self remained, that as the heroes fought the demon without, Aiden fought within. Regardless, Diablo was defeated again. His essence returned to his soul stone, and although unseen, like Ulbricht before him, it was said that Aiden's body was left behind. And in honor of his memory, the champions of Diablo 2 had ceremonially wrapped his broken body and threw it into the infernal fires that raged all around them. The man, known as Aiden, was no more. His great deeds and valor overshadowed by the evil that had consumed his very being. Like his companions, the rogue, who later became Bloodraven, or Jazrith the sorcerer, who was doomed to become the summoner, all eventual pawns for the primes to block the path of any that stood against them. Aiden was claimed by the Lord of Terror, perhaps for his hand in his demise. Or perhaps he was always seen as the great evil's final goal, Ulbricht being a stepping stone, as Cain had once surmised that possessing the warrior would make Diablo more powerful than ever. Whatever the cause, the warrior's tale proves that even the ultimate sacrifice or virtuous of heart, not even death, can save you from the long grasp of the Lord of Terror as he claims your soul even in the afterlife.
Not even death can save you from me.
Most longtime fans of the Diablo series are already intimately familiar with the rogue class and their story during the events of Diablo 1, and the character's subsequent fall with a sisterhood in the wake of Andariel's corruption of their sacred monastery and order during Act 1 of Diablo 2. However, an ongoing mystery was how did such a powerful and stalwart defender of the light actually become corrupted between games? Well, this week, ex-Blizzard North artist and lore writer for the rogue, Phil Shank, shared on Twitter the direct events between Diablo 1 and 2 that lead to the rogue's downfall.
My army will destroy you.
So without further ado, here is the untold truth of the tragic rise and fall of the rogue from Diablo 1.
Sisters, there was no other way.
The sanctity of this place has been fouled.
During the darkening of Tristram, many adventurers ventured into the labyrinth to face the horrors below, though few came back alive to tell the tale. And in the end, a band of 3 consisting of the now infamous warrior, sorcerer known as Jazrith, and a rogue named Morena emerged victorious. Together, they managed to brave the perils of the labyrinth and hellish cavities below, triumphing against the forces of hell and even, finally, felling the Lord of Terror himself, Diablo, but at an unseen terrible cost.
How could this broken shell of a man, barely able to carry the weight of his own sword, be the burning terror which drove me to hide here?
We now know, thanks to Diablo 2, none of the party of Diablo 1 escaped the incident unscathed. And thanks to Phil Shank's outline he posted on Twitter this week, we find out this was the first piece of lore he had written for Diablo 2, and that the idea and story that the rogue from Diablo 1 came back tainted to her sisterhood, making her susceptible to the great evil's deception, and ultimately outlines the fall of the rogues. And the excerpt directly reads: "When the sisters of the Sightless Eye who had fought Diablo under Tristram returned, they had fought ferociously and gained in strength and prowess considerably. Bolstered by their triumph, some thought that the time had come for the Order to rise in stature beyond the strict traditions of the Sightless Eye. Their horizons, it seemed, were expanding as never before into new realms of possibility. One rogue named Morena, perhaps the greatest veteran of the battles, gained permission to establish a formal assembly that would develop into a new school. This institution would study the mystic arts of sorcery and alchemy in order to increase both their physical and spiritual power. Many things had been learned in the trials against the demonic forces, and they acquired ancient and powerful artifacts, which hinted at undiscovered powers. Mystic tomes and scrolls revealed potent energies that had never been known before. The sisters were determined to harness these things and use them to further the cause of the sisterhood. The new assembly quickly developed revolutionary techniques to improve their skills in combat. They learned to delve farther into their spiritual center to harness powerful energies that could be focused into physical speed and power. They formulated elixirs and potions to heighten their perceptions and strengthen their bodies. They discovered arcane rituals that could be used to protect them in battle and summon terrible spirits to their aid. There were some in the Order who were concerned with these advances. They were fearful that the assembly was moving too fast and that such powerful things might not be able to be fully controlled. They asked Morena to slow down the pace of her endeavor so that they might more fully comprehend the full ramifications of the powers they were bringing on themselves. Morena was a proud and powerful woman, and she was excited and tantalized by the things she had glimpsed, but her respect for the elders of the Order held greater sway, and she agreed to their warnings. It was then she received a vision. In her dream, the matron of the Sightless Eye herself appeared to her and told her that she need not be afraid, promising that a new age was upon the sisterhood and that they must waste no time in preparing for greater trials. There was an incantation, the matron claimed, that would enable Morena to provide guidance to her people directly. The assembly was to be the new voice of the Eye, and she would bestow great gifts upon her daughters. The Eye revealed to Morena a vision of great enemy who was beginning to move against her people. Great sacrifices were to be made, but the sisterhood would emerge triumphant, but only if the Eye were to be unveiled. Morena and the assembly decided that the Eye, above all else, must be heeded. They moved in secret because they knew the rest of the sisterhood was not prepared for the responsibility that was bestowed upon them. The incantation was a long ordeal that involved many rituals in sequence. It required that the sisters grasp the deepest fears and hatreds and harness them into pure power to use against the forces of the approaching evil. There were many meditations and potions that promised to strengthen and alter their bodies as never before. When the final ritual was performed, the sisters were completely transformed. Their true queen appeared to them in a visage of a great and powerful woman. She was a glorious sight, and the new sisterhood praised the final arrival of their blessed mother. The queen then told them the time for their blindness was no longer. A new reign was beginning that would bring great woe and anguish to their enemies. She revealed her name was now to be Andariel, Queen of Vengeance, and as a final gift, she bestowed the power of true sight. Suddenly, it seemed to Morena and her sisters that their lids were finally open to the truth, as she took on a new name, Bloodraven, commanding her newly empowered rogues. All was at last revealed to them, and the enemy was clearly visible. Their fears and doubts left them in an instant, and they were left with only the ferocious certainty that the blood of their enemies must run freely.
My rogue scouts have just reported an abomination in the monastery graveyard. Apparently, Andariel is not content to take only our living. Bloodraven, one of our finest captains in the battle against Diablo at Tristram, was also one of the first to be corrupted by Andariel. Now you'll find her in the monastery graveyard, raising our dead as zombies. We cannot abide this defilement. If you are truly our ally, you will help us destroy her.
During Act 1 of Diablo 2, upon clearing the Den of Evil, we're informed of the now corrupted Bloodraven and her treachery.
Bloodraven fought valiantly against Diablo in the catacombs beneath Tristram. She was never quite the same afterwards. It is now obvious that she brought an evil influence back with her.
It's then we are given the second quest of Act 1, named Sister's Burial Ground, where we're tasked with the macabre job of putting down their forsaken sister before she can raise an army of the undead.
I sense great sorrow and misery.
Battling through scores of corrupted rogues and undead, we face the rogue, once known as Morena, under the guise of Bloodraven and the demonic influence of Andariel herself.
Rest in peace, sister.
When we finally finish the job, we're greeted by the somber residents of the rogue encampment once more and hope that finally their sister's soul has been given respite from their tortured unrest, as she received a dark gift for her attempt to free Sanctuary of the Prime Evils, who it seems even in defeat will never allow those who err them to escape unscathed.
I can hardly believe that you've defeated Bloodraven. Though she was once my closest friend, I pray that her tortured spirit remains banished forever. You have earned my respect, stranger, and the allegiance of the rogues. I have placed several of my best warriors at your disposal.
The appearance of the mage you describe sounds like one I met back in Tristram. Many Vigerai came to fight against Diablo, the Lord of Terror. Perhaps this is one of them. You know, fate seems to have frowned upon all of the heroes who confronted that terrible evil. Take care, or the same may happen to you.
Fans of the Diablo series are already intimately familiar with the Sorcerer class in Diablo 1, and the character's subsequent fall by the events of Diablo 2. However, an ongoing mystery was how such a powerful and stalwart defender of the light was tragically corrupted. And why was he sent on a pilgrimage to Tristram during the Lord of Terror's occupation? To ask and answer these questions, we must go back to the beginning. So here is the untold truth of the tragic rise and fall of the Sorcerer from Diablo 1.
The sign that my moment had come. I will go west to Tristram to stop the darkness and fulfill the destiny that beckons me.
To understand why the Sorcerer, also known as Jazrith, was sent by his mage contemporaries to the town of Tristram, we must first explore his allegiance to the Vigerai mage clan and their own nefarious origins, which directly relates to Diablo and his brother's subsequent occupation of Sanctuary and to the story and events of Diablo 1. The Viserai were the dominant of mage clans to form over 3,000 years before the darkening of Tristram. The difference between mage clans beyond doctrine can also generally be broken up into schools of magics which they utilized. For example, wizards are known to tap into the raw arcane power. Necromancers utilize, among others, blood magic, and the Viserai are largely known for their adept utilization of elemental magics. But it wasn't always so. Rise of the Summoners. The Viserai were convinced that spirits dwelled on and beyond Sanctuary. While the clan sorcerers could not directly commune with these entities, they believed contact was possible. Thus, the driving goal of the Viserai became to perfect the arts of conjuring and summoning spirits. In the year -1992, an unremarkable sorcerer named Jerry Harash succeeded where his fellows had failed. Reaching out, his heart roiling with anger and rage at the recent loss of his family, he made contact with one of these spirits. Yet, it was no such creature, but rather a demon of pure hate and malice. Whether the Viserai knew from the outset what this creature was is unclear, but soon, if not immediately, they realized that this was not some ancestral spirit. So they worked feverishly to mask the truth of what had happened. The Viserai then set about quickly perfecting this dark art, establishing demonology and the enslavement of Hell's minions as their basis of power. So successful were they in their summoning of these spirits that the Viserai earned the moniker of the Spirit Clan. They grew confident that if they could control one demon, they could control others. And their sorcerers set about summoning more and more demons into Sanctuary for short periods. While the clan had no intention of using the demons as weapons, their mages concluded that there was much to be learned from these creatures about the universe and new forms of magic. Unfortunately, this was a two-way street, as the demons then reported to their dark masters back in Hell of their findings. The Viserai's actions had unwittingly directly led to Hell's discovery of Sanctuary and ultimately drawing the ire of the burning Hells and then the heavens alike in the Sin War.
You have just ensured the doom of this world. You cannot even begin to imagine what you've set in motion this day.
After the Sin War's conclusion with Heaven and Hell ceded from Sanctuary once more, the mage clans reasserted the control they once had over the East. Taking heed of the events, the mage clans Ennead and Amuet declared that no mage clan would ever summon another demon into Sanctuary, and at some point in this period, the Viserai established military outposts and possibly temples in Aranok. The city of Lutgo Lane was built on one such Viserai fortress, as well as the city of Vizjun.
Horizon was insane. There are forces with which one does not interfere. It would not surprise me if you found only the charred remains of this damned fool.
The Mage Clan Wars. In the year -264, the truth of the Viserai's now practicing summoning again became known to the other Mage clans. Unfortunately, this sparked the Mage Clan Wars, where hundreds of thousands died as the Mage clans vied for the upper hand. After 7 years of bloody war, the Viserai were hopelessly outnumbered and on the verge of defeat. Thus, they played their trump card, the summoning of demons. In an instant, the tide turned as the creatures of the burning hells cut their way through the Ennead and Amuet ranks, allowing the Viserai to drive their forces all the way back to the city of Vizjun. Although the Viserai were willing to utilize demons to achieve their goals, differences of opinions existed as to how this would be carried out. Notably, the siblings Horizon and Bartok, both Viserai mages, exemplified this. Horizon believed that while demons were a great source of power, they had to be bent to one's will. The process of breaking a demon's will was a great delight to Horizon. In contrast, Bartok grew to sympathize with demons. With no small amount of influence from them, he believed that demonkind would be best understood through an outright alliance with them, so their secrets could be shared freely. Unfortunately, Hell was playing both of the brothers for fools, which they found out too late. Bartok and Horizon then turned on each other in a now legendary final showdown that leveled the entire city of Vizjun, leaving hundreds of thousands dead, including Bartok.
Tales abound that the mad wizard Horizon somehow trapped the lieutenants of these two lords of hell within his sanctum. There can be no more dangerous a path to tread than the one that falls alongside of demons. Should you also seek this path, watch your life and your soul very carefully, my friend.
Aftermath. The grieving Horizon was aware that as long as the agents of the Burning Hells had access to Sanctuary, the corruptions of hearts and civilizations would never cease. Following the battle, he crafted himself an arcane sanctuary, a place where the agents of hell could never find him, and continued to dominate demons at will.
It seems that I may have brought something to this plane that even I cannot control. The creature that fell into my astral trap is a very deadly demon. I have been able to bind it at the bottom of a pit, but it kills everything that I have sent there in attempts to defeat it. While it cannot escape, it does block the tunnels that lead to my protected haven. I am tempted to use the switch to open the tunnels to see if it will just leave, but I fear it is smarter than most of the lesser demons I have trapped before. If I could just lure it somewhere else.
Now, although Horizon's fate remains unclear, 3,000 plus years in the future, in the cut quest for Diablo 1, during the Darkening of Tristram, the player can actually enter Horizon's arcane sanctuary and kill him with his demons unleashed. But that is not actually canon to the story. However, the arcane sanctuary will come back around, so it is an important tidbit. For the part of the wars, the Viserai resolved to forevermore spurn demonic magic finally, and instead, they focused their remaining energies on studying elemental magic, going a step further to ensure that a tragedy of this magnitude would never be repeated. The Vizjaktar were formed, an order of mage slayers known in Diablo 2 as the Order of Assassins.
The sanctity of this place has been fouled.
Darkening of Tristram. Fast forward to the events of Diablo 1, known colloquially as the Darkening of Tristram. It was there Jazrith the Sorcerer, among other Viserai, were sent to investigate the demons taking over the countryside, perhaps as atonement for their sins, but according to the Book of Cain, Jazrith personally also had an interest in discovering lost tomes and magical artifacts that might be hidden away in the labyrinth beneath the cathedral. Now eventually, Jazrith, with the aid of his new companions, the warrior and rogue, reached the source of the horror in the labyrinth's darkest depths. Diablo, the Lord of Terror. And after a mighty battle, the demon was felled. Although they were victorious, unfortunately, like his companions, Jazrith's moment of triumph was not long-lived.
The Soul Stone burns with hell fire as an eerie red glow blurs your vision. Fresh blood flows into your eyes, and you begin to hear the tormented whispers of the damned. You have done what you knew must be done. The essence of Diablo is contained. For now. You pray that you have become strong enough to contain the demon and keep him at bay. Although you have been fortified by your quest, you can still feel him, clawing his way up from the dark recesses of your soul. Fighting to retain control, your thoughts turn toward the ancient mystic lands of the Far East. Perhaps there, beyond the desolate wastes of Aranok, you will find an answer. Or perhaps salvation.
The tragic fate of the trio of heroes who faced and felled Diablo beneath the cathedral is further explored in the sequel, Diablo 2. Unfortunately, it seems that killing the Lord of Terror was just the beginning of their woes, being marked personally by Diablo's corruptive grasp. Confronting the Lord of Terror meant that they were already doomed, winning the battle against Diablo, yet ultimately losing the war. Most prominent, of course, is the story of the warrior, who later became the Dark Wanderer. A reward for his efforts in containing Diablo within himself, he would later then become the embodiment of the Lord of Terror, and is directly responsible for the ills that the heroes encounter during the events of Diablo 2. Also, in Diablo's aid to free his brothers outside the greater and lesser evils, he called upon many familiar faces again, most notably the poor inhabitants of the town of Tristram, not granted any type of peace for their woes or even the sweet release of death. We see the town in shambles, and Griswold, the former blacksmith, cursed by Andariel herself personally to guard the town of intruders. The warrior, strong and proud in his attempts to save the people of Tristram, became what he had sheltered them from, the Lord of Terror, and in his wake, they were slaughtered nonetheless. The rogue, becoming Bloodraven, returning to her homeland in search of powers to protect her clan of rogues, but instead was manipulated by Andariel to become her personal patron. It's there we find her in a graveyard, raising and corrupting her own brethren to serve the lesser evil, and then slaughtering her sisters of the Sightless Eye, lost completely to the evils that claimed her.
Rest in peace, sister.
It is said, when facing the Lord of Terror, he would force his victims to relive their greatest nightmares. But it seems after his defeat in Diablo 1, he then forced the heroes to live them as they became his minions, a reward for their actions. But as the Lord of Destruction Baal will tell you, no good deed goes unrewarded. But what did the corruption of Diablo impart for the sorcerer Jazreth? And what were his greatest fears that he, in turn, was forced to live?
Baal. No. No, 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 no. You have done well, Marius. Now I think you shall have your reward. I've done to deserve.
Nearly 1,000 years ago, Horizon rose to the fore of the Vigerai mage clan. Horizon used the knowledge of the Vigerai to summon and control demons from hell. Though a powerful summoner, Horizon feared that the lords of hell would punish him for enslaving their brethren. Thus, the summoner created for himself an arcane sanctuary. He believed that his sanctuary would not only protect him from hell's vengeance, but also allow him to continue his studies free from the ravages of time and disease. The arcane sanctuary was believed to have been constructed here, in Lutgolain. An entrance may be hidden somewhere in the palace, as that building is very old, and was once a Vigerai fortress.
When in search of Talrash's tomb, the heroes of Diablo 2 are tasked with finding an artifact that reveals its location, hidden away in the very arcane sanctuary that Horizon had inhabited. Although we were not the only individuals looking for the mad summoner's location. For whatever reason, perhaps to learn how to contain demons and the corruption of Diablo, aiding the warrior, now the Dark Wanderer, before he is turned into the Lord of Terror. Or perhaps the corruption of Diablo himself has taken hold. But it was Jazreth, the sorcerer, who sought out the arcane sanctuary prior to our arrival at Lutgolain.
There was an Eastern mage, a Vigerai, I believe, who visited me almost a year ago. He was very interested in the history of this site, and he seemed particularly fascinated with the palace architecture. I gave him a tour. When he found the ancient seals over a passageway in the cellar, he became very agitated. He asked for some time alone to study them, and I granted it. Shortly after, he left with no further word, and I never saw him again. Odd, don't you think?
Unbeknownst to the Desert Jewels ruler, allowing the portal to Horizon's sanctum to be opened had dire consequences for its inhabitants.
When the troubles began here, I allowed the terrified harem guilds to join me within the safety of the palace. All was fine until one night. Screams echoed up the stairwells from the harem. My guards arrived to find the poor girls being slaughtered by a merciless band of hell-spawned demons. My brave guardsmen tried to push the demons back into the mysterious rift from which they came. Ever since, my men have fought a losing battle. Demons have continued to pour through the rift into the palace. Ultimately, I hired Grays and his mercenaries to help protect the rest of my fair city. Drognin believes that the arcane sanctuary lies buried underneath this palace, since Lutgalain occupies the site of an ancient Vigerai fortress. My palace is open to you now. Take care.
Drognin confirms our fears that the sorcerer was indeed the same Jazrith of Diablo 1 fame and has been corrupted, perhaps a victim of Horizon himself.
Yes, the man you speak of sounds like the mage who came here many months ago. He claimed to have fought Diablo in the passages beneath Tristram. No doubt the fool wandered into Horizon's sanctuary and lost whatever was left of his ravaged mind. He is beyond salvation. It is possible that the fool has been possessed by the spirit of Horizon. If that's true, then you'd better put an end to his tortured existence. Once done, I believe the demons who were summoned and imprisoned within the sanctuary will cease to exist as well.
This surely is the product of a twisted mind.
What makes this all the more interesting and perhaps somber is not just the fact we're tasked with killing another hero of the first Diablo, but also if the cut content were to stand, and it was Jazrith and his party who originally cut down Horizon in his sanctum, and later he had inadvertently found a new passage into the Arcane Sanctuary, mind-addled thanks to his encounter with Diablo, and was then possessed by the mad summoner Horizon as retribution. However, the Arcane Sanctuary and meeting Horizon in Diablo 1 doesn't match up with these events, as it was cut from canon, but the story is nonetheless a bitter reminder of the effects of facing the Lord of Terror.
Ah, the ancient mage Horizon. He believed that he could bend evil forces to his will. What he didn't know was that evil uses man, not the reverse. The Vigerai still revere him as a symbol of man's ability to triumph over otherworldly forces. The Church of Light, however, cites him as an example of man's folly.
Also of note is that if Horizon was a spirit, he may have sought out a host and wiped out the town if he was not quickly vanquished.
Oh, yes, I remember. There was a fellow around here many months ago who asked almost as many questions about Horizon as you. So, he discovered enough to assume Horizon's place in the Arcane Sanctuary, huh? What a fool. Horizon found it necessary to lock himself up for all time, just to protect himself from those angry demons. Such is the fate of one who practices the summoning art. In that or eternal damnation. There's old summoners and bold summoners, but no old, bold summoners.
At the Warped Sanctuary, we find Jazrith guarding the path to Talrash's tomb, now unrecognizable, sporting gaudy attire of a self-appointed despot. It's quickly evident that he's a mere puppet of the summoner Horizon, sporting the same tortured laugh as the late mage. To kill the now mad summoner is a matter of avoiding his minions and spells such as Glacial Spike and Frost Nova, and doing as much damage as possible quickly, as perhaps a nod to his class, meta, as he is a glass cannon. Felling the summoner is bittersweet, as not even the heroes of Diablo 2 recognize his great deeds in life, as some say.
Oh, I hate staining my hands with the blood of foul sorcerers.
Good riddance, freak.
This bumbling fool cannot be the mighty Horizon.
He was not Horizon. He was a deluded fool who got too close to true power.
And it seems only the sorcerer and paladin truly pitied him and his fate, and remembered his sacrifice.
Rest in peace,
tortured soul.
That couldn't have been Horazon. Poor wretch.
And for all his sacrifice, the once proud sorcerer was now, like his companions, an embodiment of everything he and his order of Vigerai mages strived to stand against, as if a final gift from the Lord of Terror himself. Regardless of the sorcerer's virtuous intent and struggles, he was reduced to, at least in the public's eye, another mad sorcerer, corrupted by his obsession for forbidden knowledge and lust for power.
I feel no pity for that would-be summoner. His terrible ambition for demonic power was his undoing. You merely hastened the inevitable.
However, it does seem that Deckard Cain, although perhaps didn't grasp the sorcerer's identity in the end, pitied the doomed practitioner, but regardless of prior relation, was a realist when it came to Jazrith's eventual fate, and that nobody escapes the everlasting ire of a prime evil.
I hope that this false summoner found peace in death. Unfortunately, it is more likely that he will be dragged down into hell by the demons he was bound to. Let this be a lesson to you. Demonic magic is a quick path, but its powers are seductive and deadly.
It should be noted, the summoner we see in Diablo 2 was not actually officially recognized in canon as the same sorcerer from Diablo 1 until nearly a decade later during BlizzCon 2011, when a single hero asked the fateful question of the devs, and it took a full minute for the answer to arrive. Enjoy.
Okay, you just mentioned about the Diablo 1 heroes were going to be Blood Raven in Diablo 2. So I'm wondering, is the Summoner also the hero from Diablo 1?
Well, I'm just the Summoner, meaning...
The guy from... Help us out here. What's the area that he's in? Arcane Sanctuary, right. Thank you.
Wasn't that, was that Horazon?
Yeah.
Man, we're doing great. Yeah, the question, the Summoner was supposed to be the hero, from Diablo 1. I was just, what I was asking when you asked the question without the mic was, did we confirm that or did we hint at it? I think we confirmed it. So, yeah, I think.
That was the intent. I don't, hopefully it came across.
Good thing I'm manning a lore panel.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Horazon's urinal? Oh, journal. Yes, well, glad you found it. Such a shame about those poor harem girls, huh? I shall miss them deeply. I mean, their conversations, of course.
you